Yes, it's time for Malcontented Minutes. It's the speed round that we do. Jennifer and I have picked five news stories each, news stories that make our hearts go pitter thump. They are five stories that are curated around five different topics. We spend 1 minute telling our story, roughly. We've gotten a little flexible on the 1 minute, and then we spend 1 minute unpacking the story, roughly, and then we move on to the next story. Here's the other thing: you get to choose the news because we have a poll. Mods and admins, you can go ahead and drop the poll into the comments, please. And that poll, you go in and vote and pick the story that you want Jennifer and I to unpack a little bit more at the end of the show. Now, you shouldn't vote right now because you haven't heard the stories yet. But we're going to go ahead and put the link. They're going to go ahead and pin that link at the bottom. And we will remind our mod and admin team a couple of times to go, hey, can you drop that link in there? And so, Jennifer, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start the timer. And story number one. Story number one. Amanda Gorman became the first person in the 55 years of the Super Bowl to be the poet of the game, reciting her piece, Chorus of Captains. I've thought about playing it, but I was worried we would get taken off the air for copyright. So I'm just going to read part of it. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it as well as Amanda Gorman. And I am not trying to co-opt her words. I would love to play the clip. Today, we honor our three captains for their actions and impact in a time of uncertainty and need. They've taken the lead, exceeding all expectations and limitations, uplifting their communities and neighbors as leaders, healers, and educators. James has felt the wounds of warfare, but this warrior still shares his home with at-risk kids. During COVID, he even lent a hand, live streaming football for families and fans. Tremaine is an educator who works nonstop, providing his community with hotspots, laptops, and tech workshops. So his students have all the tools they need to succeed in life and in school. Susie is the ICU nurse, manager at a Tampa hospital. Her chronicles prove that even in tragedy, hope is possible. She lost her grandmothers to the pandemic and fights to save others' lives in the ICU battle zone, defining the frontline heroes risking their lives for our own. Let us walk with these warriors, charge on with these champions, and carry forth the call of our captains. We celebrate them by acting with courage and compassion, by doing what is right and just. For while we honor them today, it is they who every day honor us. Amanda Gorman is the person we need, and she is saying the words we need in 2021. Jennifer, I'm sorry, I only gave you like 15 minutes to unpack it.
15 minutes. Wow.
15 seconds. 15 seconds.
No, she's amazing. And even you reading her words just on their own are extremely powerful. They're even more powerful when she is behind them. But I just think that she is such an amazing talent, such an amazing poet. And I'm so glad that we're getting so much of her work showcased and that we get to experience it.
If you want to see her, the video, because the video, like, have a tissue. The video is super powerful. If you want to see the video, YouTube, Amanda Gorman, Super Bowl. It's up on several news sites. The NFL is real touchy on copyright, and that's why I was like, we're not going to go ahead and play the clip. And with that, Jennifer, you can go ahead and do story number two.
Okay, so I think this is a really great thing that's happening, and it's Black-owned e-tailers are creating a one-stop shop for BIPOC-founded beauty. And so this has been a particular passion for a lot of these women who are behind these self-funded beauty lines. For example, Black Magnificence. Their founder began as a model out of a residence in her 20s and now in her 40s has launched her dream as a retailer. But they're kind of recounting some of their experiences of going into these larger, big brand makeup retailers like Sephora and Ulta and not having products that were tailored specifically for them. And so it's a really kind of a very positive move to have this accessible for BIPOC women or BIPOC people who are looking for these kinds of products to have like one space where they can go and purchase them and know that this is stuff that is tailor made specifically for them. And a lot of these people are, basically self-started, self-funded. So this is a really great space to not only go get, products specifically, one-stop shopping for BIPOC founded beauty, but it's also a great way to support small businesses. Do I still have time left? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
One of the things that I've noticed in advertising in a number of different brands that I find upsetting or disconcerting, and I'm going to give myself a few extra seconds over the mute issue, is the advertising that you see, particularly after George Floyd, includes a lot of BIPOC people now and multiracial families, and it's all feel good and woo woo, but these companies are not practicing what they're showing in the advertising. Now, I will take this and flip it on the other side. The fact that these major brands are going on the temperature outside and doing this says, once again, the people that are fighting for white nationalism, that are fighting for fascism in this country, their views are outnumbered, because if they weren't, the advertisers are just going to follow the money.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the most powerful quotes from this entire story is, quote, "All of our founders are self-funded," which we felt was fairly distinctive as a result of it actually speaks to the character of Girls of Shade. So again, keep an eye out for Black-owned detailers creating one-stop shopping for BIPOC-founded beauty. This is a recent story, and if you just kind of Google that, you'll get all kinds of different sites coming up, and you can support them and check out what they're doing.
Excellent. And with that, I'm going to move on to story number 3. Start the timer. Magistrate Judge Brian Tushita, I hope I said their name right, thank you for your patience, appointed to the Seattle District Court, stunned everyone this morning when he made the decision to release recently arrested Proud Boys Sergeant of Arms Ethan Nordine, a.k.a. Rufio Panman of South Puget Sound area. Tushita, a Bush 43 appointee, decision was met with an emergency stay by Chief U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell. Nordine will remain in federal custody with this decision, where he is currently being held at the Federal Detention Center at SeaTac. Nordine is going to be transferred as soon as possible to Washington, D.C., where his next hearing is scheduled for February 15. Nordine had an active role in the insurrection on January 6th, leading an early charge on the pedestrian barricades of the Capitol, which was caught on camera. During that melee, a police officer was seriously injured when they got pushed back. Jennifer, you get to unpack that shit show.
So we're kind of back to this, you talking about 1923 and the whole slap on the hand thing. And I'm, very concerned that we're going to have the same thing we were discussing earlier, that so many of these people who committed very serious offenses during the insurrection are going to get their hands slapped, and we're going to build additional momentum behind these people that are still very much upset, white nationalist domestic terrorists who are very much upset about the possibility of change and progress for people who don't look like them. And so I think this is highly, problematic. I'm glad there was intervention, but I think this is something we're going to have to continue to keep an eye on, and, really kind of to ensure or put pressure on people to hold these people accountable for the crimes they committed.
Jake Greenberg is still sitting in a jail cell on federal charges. And I bring up Jake Greenberg because it's a white person and a white person. The only difference is one's left wing and one's right wing. Take all the time you want to unpack that, Malcontents. All right, Jennifer, you get on with story number 4.
Oh, boy. Back to weird things happening at gender reveals and baby showers. A man attending a baby shower was killed when a small cannon exploded in the backyard of a home near Flint, Michigan. Evan Thomas Silva, 26, died Saturday after he was struck by shrapnel from a cannon, which was fired to celebrate the baby's pending arrival. Apparently, Silva was standing about 10 to 15 feet away from the cannon and was the only person hit by the shrapnel, although it did hit a few vehicles and a garage near the home. So he's taken to the hospital and dies shortly after arrival. Apparently, the owners of the cannon had fired it multiple times prior to this and had no issues, but it's suspected that the gunpowder loaded into the device caused the cannon to fracture. And so Silva's death is not different from accidents that have occurred at gender reveal parties, where soon-to-be parents announce the gender of their unborn child with pyrotechnic devices or elaborate displays. Didn't we have wildfires that started that way last year? And I don't understand the necessity of this, but it's continuing to be an issue and cause, in this case, grievous fatal harm.
The power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true.
I mean, look, it's a sad story because I have gallows laughter on this. I was an EMT. Anybody who's been in medicine totally understands the smirk on my face. This is a sad story. You have a birth reveal. I mean, certainly there was no intent to blow up the guests at the birth reveal. I did read this story and about the theory that it may have been overpacked with gunpowder or that it had a hairline crack. They said even though that the cannon was essentially commercially purchased, it looked like it was practically homemade. So
yeah. I just don't understand the necessity of having to blow off a cannon to celebrate the birth, the coming birth of a child. There are other ways, like eat some cake. I had a baby shower. We ate cake and played weird games with balloons. I don't know why.
Was the cannon blown off maybe 4 or 5 months earlier?
Yes. Well, apparently the owner had blown it off several times without issue. But this one time at this party, that sounds terrible. It killed somebody. So I don't know the whole gender reveal thing, especially after the wildfires last year and the possibility of the gender reveal pyrotechnics behind that. I don't understand why people need to continue to do that.
We're going to go ahead and move on. But if you want us to unpack that story, because we're kind of unpacking it right now, but if you want to have us keep talking about it, you could go ahead and vote for that. Mods, admins, if you could put a reminder of that poll up there and another reminder to spam those hearts, let those mods and admins know that you love them. And with that, we're going to move on to story number 5. Oh, Florida, you'd never cease to deliver. A Florida man ran onto the field of the Super Bowl, which, of course, Jennifer, was being played in a Florida stadium. 31-year-old Yuri Andrade of Boca Raton, Florida, had more running game than the entire Chiefs team, although he did slide at the end of his run without breaking the plane. So if he had possession of a football, it wouldn't have been touchdown. And check it out. We have a clip. Jennifer, you get to unpack the Borat wannabe.
Florida is amazing, man. They just it's the gift that keeps on giving, especially after last week and the guy with the Florida tattoo in the middle of the forehead calling 911 for a ride. Now we have a streaker at the Super Bowl in the most lovely, what looked like some kind of pink swimsuit, perhaps.
It looked very Borat-ish, right? We don't know what's under the shorts, but it totally looked like it was going to have that weird cup thing like Borat wore.
Yeah, and then, he slid too early. I was a little bit disappointed by that. Yeah, but I think you're maybe on to something. The Chiefs should have taken some notes on that run game because theirs was.
He may have a football career waiting for him somewhere. He definitely has some moves.
Yeah, he totally does. Totally does.
Imagine with some trading and stuff what he might be able to do. All right, Jennifer, you're going to go ahead and do story number 6.
Yes. So we have queer artists of color are dominating 2021 must-see LGBTQ art shows. And so there's a series, there's tons of art exhibitions right now that are really kind of, featuring queer artists of color, including one from Seattle. So former Seattle civic poet and queer superhero of color, Anastasia Renee, is actually presenting a new show in the voice of her longtime character, Alice Metropolis, as she reflects on and rages against gentrification and colonization, both literal and figurative. And this is at the Frye Art Museum. The immersive installation is a walk through Alice's home, charting the way she strives for wholeness against depression. It includes a spiritual sanctuary dedicated to writer Audre Lorde. This is actually rescheduled from last year, and it opened virtually on January 30th and is going through April 25th, and the museum actually reopens February 11th. So that is something local to check out. But there are actually tons of different LGBTQIA exhibits going on, again, from New York to Seattle and everywhere in between, that are really being dominated by these queer artists of color.
It's a great story, and it really contrasts to what we had on Saturday, where I called out our community. When I say our community, I mean the Malcontent community, on what we have documented as transphobia within the protest community and within the Seattle community and with our viewer community. And this elicited strong feedback across multiple channels. We've had a lot of feedback on TikTok. We got feedback on Twitter. We've had some interesting feedback on Facebook on that.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Jim, if you're watching. Sorry.
Hi, Jim. And I'm just happy to see the recognition.
Yes.
Because it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. But I just thought that was really cool. I think it's great that, we have an exhibition right here in Seattle that people can check out at the Frye Museum, still virtually through the 11th when it reopens. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also the virtual exhibit that we had highlighted that was in St. Louis. We highlighted that last week. Story number 7. Both Virginia and Nebraska are making moves to put their defunct gay marriage bans on a public ballot. Both states passed constitutional amendments banning gay marriage. However, the U.S. Supreme Court decided on gay marriage in June of 2015, making both bans moot. Since the measures passed, Virginia has become a blue state, and Nebraska, with an influx of financial services and tech workers to the urban centers of Omaha and Lincoln, is starting to turn a little bit into a purple state. Surprise, surprise, Jennifer, there's resistance by the Republican Party to put these measures on a ballot. Democrats want to put these measures on a ballot to basically put a line in the stand to go, see, the attitude on gay marriage has changed because the public voted to remove these out of our Constitution.
Yeah, no, I just think it's so insane in this day and age that we're still driving these very rigid norms for gender and family that were, so prominent back in the 1950s. I mean, for God's sake, we made sitcoms to shape people's. You made a basket, didn't you? I saw that. To shape people's understanding of what the nuclear family should be and how people should live their lives. And these people are so beholden to these ideas and so resistant to any kind of change that challenges their own understanding. I think it's just disgusting. It needs to go by the wayside, and the GOP just needs to get their shit together.
Hey, Hollywood, you've been sitting on the book, The Forever War, to make a movie for I think 30 years now. And I keep reading, well, we can't get the script. America's ready for the Forever War. I'm absolutely convinced. If you haven't read it, one of the greatest sci-fi books ever written. Jennifer, you can go ahead and take us to story number 8.
Oh, this is really cute, kind of good news. And so this is a Bellevue 10-year-old girl who wants to spread some happiness, BIPOC girl who wants to spread some happiness and hope with, it's called www.goodnewscoronavirus.com. News is spelled with a Z, and it's a newsletter and website that shares positive news about coronavirus. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. She's adorable. The webmaster is Ariaman Sinha. She's 10, almost 11. And it's actually a young man. My apologies. I read that wrong the first time. I'm off tonight. I'm sorry, guys. So Good News Coronavirus has the motto spreading good news, not the virus. Founded the website and post 3 news stories relating to coronavirus each day. They send out a newsletter with 10 stories each week. And currently their website has over 550 encouraging stories for more than 50 countries around the world. More than 100 subscribers fuel the nearly 11-year-old who says they just want to make people happy. So this is another great example of people doing good stuff. This is a BIPOC child in Bellevue who has done this stuff and created this website to kind of spread some cheer and promote some of the good things that are happening with COVID to kind of, brighten people's day a little bit. So,
Jennifer, if we could be sure to share that URL to their website, it would be a fabulous thing to share out. Yeah. Maybe when we're looking for good news for our Malcontented Minutes, we can go ahead and quote their website.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, we're going to go ahead to story number 9. Story 9. There's not a whole lot to say about story 9 except for enjoy this hippo from the Cincinnati Zoo celebrating her 4th birthday. Jennifer, you get 60 seconds to unpack that.
In the words of my 14-year-old son on a quiet drive to Olympia, hippos are terrifying. That does not look like a terrifying hippo to me. And so when I posted that on Facebook, because I thought it was hilarious, there were a lot of my friends that are like, no, he's right. Hippos are terrifying. And we talked a little bit about it before the show, but I'm going to go with hippos are not terrifying because that was the most adorable thing I've seen all day.
By the way, I ran that video specifically from feedback from our Malcontents because it's you Malcontents over there. When we ran a video of the panda playing in the snow, there were a ton of comments. More stuff like this is like a palate cleanser. Although we're not having a very heavy show tonight, but we do have some heavy topics that are coming up. But there you go. That was your little palate cleanser. Mods and admins, this is the time because we're to story number 10. Drop that link over in the comments one more time because we are at the point of the last story. So you get to control the news. Go over, vote for the story that you want Jennifer and I to unpack more. We will announce what that story is when we get to our second to last story tonight at the end of our penultimate story. Oh my God, I got to use the word penultimate.
Yay. A great word.
All right. $10 word. Jennifer, there you go. Story number 10. Take it away.
I mean, I feel bad even bringing this story on after the hippo, but, Myanmar's army has staged a coup and, detained democratically elected leaders there, and it's getting out of hand. Military says it's taking control of the country in a coup against the civilian government, who they've detained the leader along with other National League for Democracy leaders on Monday. And the army said that the power would be transferred to the commander-in-chief, Min Aung Hlaing. I'm apologizing if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. In a statement broadcast on military-owned television that was also declared a 1-year state of emergency. And that was reported by Reuters. And so hours earlier, the NLD spokesman had announced that other civilian leaders had been taken in an early morning raid, and he was, advising that they want to tell people not to respond rashly and want them to act according to the law, but that later the party urged the people to oppose the coup and any return to military dictatorship. So the military said it's detained the democratically elected leaders in response to, get this, quote, election fraud.
I wonder where they got that idea from.
Yeah.
We spent 54 minutes in our insurrection update, Jennifer, on Saturday. I saw that after Rat. So we were wondering how did our show get out of hand? There you go. Our insurrection, our 14-page long insurrection update was almost an hour. And there is still this narrative that is being pushed. I read a story today. 1/3 of Americans believe the big lie. It is going to be a very long road to come back from the big lie. Myanmar has gone through all of these challenges of a dictatorship, brutality, genocide against a couple of minority populations, including Muslim population there, just getting back on their feet. And, oh, what a shock. Authoritarianism doesn't want to let go because it never wants to let go when it takes root.
Yeah, absolutely. Democratically elected leaders. And, you have to wonder how much of the world watches what has gone on in America and what they attempted to do. And I know Myanmar's had its challenges, just like other places, who have undergone military coups and not wanted to let go of authoritarianism and dictatorships. But, this seems like, pretty convenient timing to pull the election fraud response.
Yeah, absolutely. Cameron, I saw your question over in the comments. This is something we started doing maybe about 2 weeks ago. And yes, we do these 10 stories because what we were finding is there were so many things that we wanted to cover. And the other thing is that these shows were getting really heavy because there's a lot of heavy stuff in the world going on. And so we wanted to be able to bring in a couple of stories every day that could lighten things up, but at the same time remain true to our roots on supporting BIPOC and LGBTQIA plus voices. And so that's why we've introduced this. I would say we're still fine-tuning it, but I would also say that based on the feedback we're getting, I think we're pretty far down the path in the right direction. However, we want to know what you think. So, and consider the polls have been open, but this is the time for you to go in and vote. And I know the mods and admins will be reminding you to vote. Jennifer, brief pause for the cause, and we're going to go to our next segment.
Okay.
Hey, we're gonna have to start moving people, and then a couple other people came in, and we were like,
the police to be held accountable for their actions. We're not going without no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Can You Hear Us is our documentary about the events in Seattle from June 1st to July 4th. There are events that will forever shape the history of the city of Seattle. And I have said many times, I think 100 years from now, people will be walking up around Cal Anderson Park in the area that was known as CHOP. I think that area will be called CHOP forever. And I think 100 years from now, people, why is it called CHOP? And like, I don't know. They called it CHOP, and we just call it CHOP. Fun little worthless piece of trivia. The term Skid Row comes from Seattle.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. And I'm a historian. That makes me feel like my degrees are worthless now.
Yeah, the term comes from Seattle. Basically, it was so that Seattle's very hilly, and so there was a road that was intentionally greased so that they could slide the logs from the timber industry down into Elliott Bay. And that grease road went through the minority neighborhoods. What a shock. And it was called Skid Row.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm going to have to look more into that now. Thanks, David.
I know you love your history.
I know.